quiet departure of men from relationships and the dating market is not a coordinated protest or an act of misdirected anger. Its roots are far deeper and more personal, born from a profound and collective sense of exhaustion. For generations, the social contract for men was clearly defined. If unspoken, your value is your utility. You are a provider, a protector, a problem solver. Your purpose is found in your capacity to sacrifice for others, to endure hardship silently, and to equate love with the endless act of giving. This was the script men were handed, and for a long time, they followed it. Believing that this relentless output was the path to respect, love, and a meaningful life, but a fundamental recalibration is now underway. The engine of this shift is not rage, but a deep, soul-level fatigue. Men are simply tired. They are tired of being the only ones expected to bend and break in the name of compromise. They are tired of pouring unwavering loyalty into partners who, empowered by a culture of endless options, view them not as a partner, but as one choice on a menu, constantly measured against hypothetical alternatives. They are exhausted from the cultural whiplash of being shamed for their innate masculine, strength-deemed, toxic, or oppressive, while simultaneously being relied upon for that very same strength to fix problems, offer stability, and provide security. This cognitive dissonance is draining. The modern romantic landscape has increasingly come to feel less like a partnership and more like a precarious transaction. In this new paradigm, love feels conditional, perpetually contingent on perfect performance. Respect is not a given foundation, but a prize that must be endlessly re-earned through a series of tests that have no clear endpoint. Loyalty, once the bedrock, has been replaced by the pursuit of convenience and the thrill of the new. Men who once swallowed these unsettling dynamics, hoping their dedication would be enough, are now witnessing a dispiriting cycle. Invest completely, get used for that investment, and ultimately get discarded when something new or more exciting appears. After being burned enough times, something fundamental changes within a man. The chase for external validation and romantic completion loses its allure. The priority shifts. He stops chasing a love that feels like a mirage and starts chasing the one thing he has been denied: peace. This exhaustion, therefore, is the catalyst. It is the quiet, steady force that leads a man to disengage, not with a shout, but with a resigned sigh, deciding that his energy is better spent on building a stable life for himself than on feeding a system that only knows how to take. This pervasive exhaustion does not exist in a vacuum. It is the direct result of a dawning and painful clarity. Men are no longer simply feeling tired. They are waking up and actively paying attention. They are comparing notes with their brothers, fathers, and friends, and a consistent, damning pattern emerges from the shared stories. The fatigue gives way to a cold, rational understanding that the game they were taught to play is not just difficult, it is fundamentally rigged against them. This awakening is fueled by the stark visibility of double standards, where the same behavior is celebrated in one gender and condemned in the other. They witness betrayals that are reframed as acts of empowerment or self-discovery, and they see disrespect weaponized and then celebrated in the court of public opinion, particularly on social media, where narratives are set with little regard for truth or nuance. The evidence is not just anecdotal, it feels systemic. They have watched too many fathers, men who built families and homes with decades of sweat and sacrifice, be systematically dismantled in divorce, courts financially drained, separated from their children, and portrayed as villains in a legal process that often presumes guilt over innocence. They have seen too many friends publicly humiliated by false or exaggerated accusations, their reputations set ablaze in an instant, while the accusers are lauded for their bravery, regardless of the eventual truth. The lesson learned from these countless examples is a brutal one. Loyalty and quiet sacrifice are not rewarded. They are often punished. The faithful, stable man is not cherished. He is seen as predictable, even disposable, a safe harbor to be used until the call of something more exciting arrives. This realization is crucial to understand. This is not an anger directed at women as a whole. but a cold, sober understanding of the mechanics of the system itself. The cultural landscape has shifted dramatically, and men are analyzing the new terrain. They see how certain strands of feminism, stripped of their original quest for equality and twisted into a toxic form, have fostered an environment where masculinity itself is often treated as a pathology to be corrected rather than a strength to be channeled. They observe a hookup culture that promises liberation but often delivers emotional emptiness, training a generation to value the thrill of the new over the depth of the familiar. Most potently, they see the illusion of endless options, supercharged by social media and dating apps, which has profoundly reshaped perceptions. This digital marketplace creates a paralyzing paradox for men. They are told to be confident and assertive. Yet they are competing not just with other men, but with the curated highlight reels of Instagram, the fantasy romances of Netflix, and the fleeting, low-effort attention of Tinder. It teaches women to chase the dopamine hit of excitement over the grounding comfort of stability, to mistake protective concern for controlling behavior, and to believe that a better option is always just one swipe away. This is the game men are now seeing with clear eyes. It is a game where the rules are written to ensure they are perpetual supplicants, constantly proving their worth in a trial that never ends. And when a man finally understands that the system is designed for his ultimate loss, the only rational, self-respecting choice is to stop playing altogether. He realizes his worth was never truly defined by his utility to others, but is inherent in his own character, his discipline, his vision, and his capacity to build for himself. The decision to walk away is frequently misinterpreted as an act of surrender, a quiet admission of defeat in the face of modern dating's complexities. But this perspective misunderstands the fundamental nature of the choice entirely. For the man who has reached his limit, walking away is not a retreat. It is the ultimate act of liberation and the most powerful move he can make. It is a silent, unilateral declaration that his peace is now a non-negotiable currency, more valuable than any conditional affection offered in return for his suffering. This single act flips the entire historical script on its head. For generations, the leverage in relationships was understood to belong to women, wielded through the threat of withdrawing affection, love, or their very presence. The fear of this loss kept men compliant, chasing, and willing to endure disrespect to avoid the specter of loneliness. But by choosing solitude, the modern man shatters this leverage. He calls the bluff and reveals a terrifying truth. He can, in fact, thrive on his own. This chosen solitude is not the empty, aching loneliness he was taught to fear. It is reclaimed space, filled with the palpable energy of freedom. It is a vacuum into which he can now pour all the focus, time, and resources that were once consumed by managing a partner's emotions, passing endless tests, and navigating constant drama. The energy that once evaporated in the heat of conflict is now redirected inward, becoming the fuel for a profound transformation. The gym ceases to be a place of vanity and becomes his sanctuary, a form of physical therapy where discipline is forged and stress is exercised. His career or craft shifts from being merely a means to provide for others to becoming his legacy, something he builds for his own pride and purpose. The silence he once dreaded becomes his reward, a peaceful state where he can think clearly, undisturbed by chaos. In this space of self-investment, he makes the most profound discovery of all: the fulfillment, validation, and sense of purpose he was desperately trying to find in a woman was not out there to begin with. It was a dormant potential within him, waiting for the noise to cease so it could finally be heard. This journey inward often leads him outward to rediscover brotherhood. He finds strength in accountability and connections with other men who are on similar paths, men who sharpen his resolve, offer honest feedback, and remind him of what it means to stand with strength and integrity, free from the need for external validation. He is no longer building to impress a partner or to hand over the fruits of his labor. He is building a kingdom for himself, governed by his own values. He becomes the sovereign of his own life, and a man who has tasted that sovereignty, who has felt the dignity of building, without being drained in the peace of ruling his own world, without apology, will never again willingly demote himself to the role of a servant or a supplicant in someone else's domain. The kingdom he builds alone may seem quiet to the outside world, but to him it is a fortress of self-respect. The mass withdrawal of men from the traditional dating paradigm does not occur in a vacuum. It creates a void, and that void is beginning to generate a palpable, if often unspoken, sense of panic. This anxiety stems from the collapse of a fundamental assumption that has underpinned romantic dynamics for decades. The presumed leverage of unconditional male sacrifice. The entire system operated on the belief that men, driven by a biological and social imperative to partner, would always return, always chase, and always beg for validation, no matter how poorly they were treated. Their fear of loneliness was the fuel that kept the engine running. Now, women are confronting a new and terrifying reality: the indifferent man. This is not a man who is angry or playing games. He is a man who has genuinely recalibrated his life to function optimally without a romantic partner. His indifference is terrifying precisely because it is authentic and unshakable. It cannot be bribed with occasional affection, manipulated with strategic silence, or threatened with abandonment. What can you truly take from a man who has not only accepted solitude, but has learned to thrive within it? The answer is nothing. This renders the old playbook obsolete in the face of this powerless new reality. The reaction often follows a predictable pattern. The labels emerge swiftly and decisively: toxic, afraid of commitment, emotionally unavailable, or the lazy catch-all of incel. These are not diagnoses. They are tactical shaming mechanisms, a last-ditch effort to guilt men back into the old system by attacking their very identity as men. The underlying message is clear. A real man would stay and suffer. A real man would continue to provide and chase. But these words have lost their sting because they bounce harmlessly off a man who no longer needs female approval to validate his existence. He has built his self-worth on a foundation of his own creation, and it is immune to external criticism. The shaming reveals a profound desperation, a telltale sign that the levers of control are breaking. Women are beginning to realize, perhaps for the first time, that the power they once wielded was not innate or earned. It was borrowed. It was built entirely upon the foundation of male desperation and the fear of being alone. As that desperation dries up and is replaced by a contented self-sufficiency, the leverage built upon it collapses. The celebration of freedom and endless options is curdling into the slow-dawning realization that options are not the same as value, and that the attention of countless interchangeable, low-investment suitors is a poor substitute for the devoted commitment of one high-value man. They are left facing the mirror of their own choices, and the reflection is a stark one: the fantasies sold by culture, the perfect, endlessly patient, high-earning fantasy man who also tolerates disrespect, do not exist. The stable, loyal, protective men they may have overlooked or dismissed in pursuit of excitement are now the very ones becoming untouchable, not out of spite, but because they have found peace elsewhere. This realization is the source of the quiet panic. It is the understanding that the dynamics they helped create have consequences, and that the security they took for granted was not a permanent fixture but a privilege, one that is being revoked not by them, but by the silent, collective withdrawal of the very men they believed would always be there. This is not a fleeting trend or a collective tantrum. It is a deep generational shift in male consciousness, a move toward profound awareness and self-preservation. Young men are not just learning from their own heartbreaks. They are acting as keen observers of the older generations. They watch their father's uncles and older brothers, men who played by the old rules, and they see the ruins of those choices. The financial devastation from divorce, the emotional scarring of betrayal, the hollowed-out spirit of a man who gave everything and was left with nothing. Consequently, they are not waiting for recovery. They are choosing prevention. They are rejecting the romantic script before it is ever handed to them, avoiding the entire trap from the outset. This proactive avoidance is what makes the movement truly unstoppable. As it strikes at the system's ability to even recruit new participants, this fundamental reorientation is at its heart about legacy. Men have performed a cold, hard cost-benefit analysis of modern relationships and have realized they cannot build anything lasting or meaningful if it can be legally and emotionally obliterated overnight by a single decision from a partner or a biased system. The risk has catastrophically outpaced the reward. Therefore, they are consciously choosing to protect their legacy instead of gambling it. They are investing in their name, their personal mission, their work, and their autonomous vision, things that cannot be taken away by a family court ruling or a change of heart. They are choosing to leave behind something tangible and stable that future generations of their own bloodline can stand upon. Rather than pouring their essence into the unstable vessel of a modern relationship, this choice matters infinitely more than any temporary affection, because love, as it is currently framed, is often conditional and fleeting. But a legacy built on self-reliance and truth is permanent. It is critical to understand that this is not a rejection of women or even of love itself, but a wholesale rejection of the hollow illusions that define modern romance. Men are walking away from the manipulation, the endless testing, the transactional conditional love, and the celebrated chaos. They are not giving up on the concept of a powerful, complementary partnership. They are giving up on the counterfeit version that is being sold to them. They are leaving behind a culture of entitlement, the worship of fantasy, and the mockery of traditional virtues like loyalty and sacrifice. The silent, growing absence of men from the dating market is their collective statement. They are not rejecting feminine energy in its pure, nurturing form. They are refusing to engage with its corrupted, hyper-commodified shadow. And until the culture returns to a place of truth where respect is given, loyalty is valued, and peace is considered the highest form of partnership, these men will continue to walk away. They have learned that a life built on the solid ground of their own purpose is far more valuable than one built on the shifting sands of romantic illusion. Their silence is not a plea for attention. It is the evidence of their exit. It is the sound of men choosing to build their own worlds of truth, and in doing so, they are becoming the architects of a new and far more authentic reality.